Good morning, shooters. Kevin Wyatt, Wyatt's Outdoor Incorporated. Today I'm going to do a little video, short video on Winchester Model 70. I've recently had a number of phone calls, guys wanting to install our extended MB8 magazine into a Winchester Model 70, and they had questions on how it was done, how I performed the operation. So I'll go over a little bit today. I just happen to have my Model 70. I'm getting ready to stick a new barrel on it, so I've taken it apart and I'll show you the alterations that I made on it. Okay, this Model 70 actually is about a 1970s, mid-70s version, so it's controlled round feed. And I built it into, it's kind of a Wildcat. It's real similar to a 35 Ultra Mag, but I run a 404 case. I actually developed that cartridge before the Ultra Mag hit the market. So with that being said, you know, the Ultra Mag is pretty good sized cartridge as far as diameter, and I didn't really like putting that on a 1-inch thread tenon. So the first thing I did on this particular receiver was I opened the thread tenon up to 1 1/16. So it's the same thread pitch as a Remington. It's 1 1/16. So with that being said, then the next thing I needed to do was to open up the magazine well. And all I did there was just follow the factory lines, open it up to the rear. You're going to have to run that to the rear about 225 thousandths to get the magazine box to fit in there. And what I normally do is I'll take the receiver, I'll put Dykem blue back here, put the magazine box in, scribe around the back of the magazine box, and just mill it back to the scribe. And as far as the receiver rails, I just emulate those cuts all the way to the rear and make sure that I remove the burrs afterwards. Once that's done, then you can put the magazine box in. I use the standard spring and follower. The only thing you might need to do if you make this operation and if you lose the heel pressure, then you might need to move the follower spring back in the floor plate in order to retain that heel pressure. And when I speak of heel pressure, I explained it on my last video. What the heel pressure on the cartridge is the follower. If you've lost the heel pressure, you've lost the pressure at the back of the cartridge case. So if you load, say, 2 down or 3 down, you chamber one, drag your bolt to the rear, it ejects that one. You go to chamber the second one, the bolt overrides the back of the case. The back of the case is sitting in the down position and it's pivoting up here on the shoulder. That's loss of heel pressure. So in order to gain that heel pressure back, just simply drag your follower spring back as far as you can in the floor plate, stake the front of it so it can't move back forward, and generally you can slide those back, you know, 150 thousandths, and that transitions that heel pressure farther back and gives you that the upward pressure you need on that cartridge to get it to feed properly. Now in this particular action, I didn't have to do that. This action started out life as a 7mm Remington mag, so it's got a fairly short follower. I used the factory follower and spring, and I've never had a feed issue with this rifle. Okay, the other thing you're going to need to do is, while you've got a milling machine, is you're going to have to mill the ejection port to the rear. If you don't mill the ejection port to the rear, when you go to eject a fired cartridge case, especially if you cycle a bolt quickly, what's going to happen is that cartridge case is going to rotate out of there and it's going to hit the inside of the rear receiver bridge and it kills the ejection. So you're going to need to move that back. And you can see on this particular action, I've moved that back about 1/4 inch. Well, you can't move it, you can't emulate those receiver cuts all the way over like we do on a Remington because of where the front mount screw hole is for your rear base. So you can see what I've done is I've removed it here on the side, kind of transitioned it, missing that screw on top, and that's allowed me to get enough room to where that cartridge case can come out of there and eject properly. The other thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to alter your bolt stop. So here is virtually a factory bolt stop that I've altered. Now when I alter these bolt stops, if you don't cut them and change them, if you try just to move the face of it back, you're going to run out of material. So what I've done, I don't know if you can see it in the video there, but I've drawn just a little V-notch. What I do is I cut a V-notch almost all the way through. I leave myself about 40 or 50 thousandths of material there. And in the V, the top of the V, I've removed about 1/16 of an inch of material. And then what I do is I bend that in the center, bend those two halves up and close that V. Once I've closed that V, I take a TIG welder and I TIG weld it back. And that allows me to go ahead and move that face back. It's moved all that material up higher, so now I've got lots of material to deal with. As far as the ejector, you're also going to either have to alter that, or the easiest thing is just buy an ejector. I sell an aftermarket ejector that's already shortened and everything for this purpose. The last thing is your bottom metal. Okay, now on like this particular receiver, I had a two-piece bottom metal. So you've got a trigger guard and you've got the hinge floor plate that are two pieces. So what I've done here is at the back of the countersink for the center guard screw, I've just removed it altogether. And I just hold the trigger guard in place with the rear guard screw and the front with the front guard screw. I've eliminated that center guard screw altogether. And when I first did that, I didn't know whether I was going to have a problem with the follower spring pushing on that trigger, or pushing on the floor plate and allowing the front of the trigger guard to dip down, but I've never had that issue. Now I've glass bedded all the parts in the bottom, so it's, you know, it's a mirror image fit. So I've never had an issue with that. So I would just cut it off like I've done there and just omit that center guard screw altogether. If you're using a one-piece trigger guard, you can virtually do the same thing. You know, it doesn't use the center guard screw anyhow, so it shouldn't be any problem. So if you go to put one of those in, if you run into any problems or anything, give me a call. I've done a number of them. Unfortunately, with as busy as I've been, I no longer do general gunsmithing, so you're going to have to find a machinist to do it. I ask you don't send it here because I'm so busy with manufacturing. I'm a one-man shop, so we're not taking general gunsmithing work anymore. So thank you for your time. You can always contact me at 541-776-8417 if you have any feed issues or you need help. Thank you very much. Have a good day and good shooting.